The great station called Nexus Prime floated in the darkness between three dying stars. It was the oldest structure in the known galaxy. Every species that had ever reached the stars knew this place. Here, wars ended. Here, treaties were signed. Here, the Galactic Council met to decide the fate of billions. Today, the council chamber was filled with anger. June stood near the back of the human delegation, watching the chaos unfold. He was the captain of the Terran diplomatic vessel Handbit, a simple transport ship with no weapons and a crew of 40. He had expected a boring trip. He had expected to sit quietly while politicians talked about trade routes and border agreements. He had not expected this. Two great powers were screaming at each other across the chamber. The Corvani Empire, with their red skin and 4 arms, stood on the left side. Their leader, a massive warrior called Draxus, pounded his fist against his chest as he spoke. On the right side stood the Veloci Collective, beings of pale blue light that flickered when they were upset. Their elder Sarath remained calm, but his light grew brighter with each insult thrown his way. "You have stolen our worlds," Draxus roared. His voice echoed through the chamber like thunder. "For 300 years, you have taken what belongs to us. No more. The Corvani will have blood." Sarath's form flickered. "We have stolen nothing. Those worlds were empty when we settled them. Your ancestors abandoned them long ago." Lies. June looked at Yuna, the chief ambassador of Earth. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and a calm face. Nothing seemed to disturb her. She had been a diplomat for 30 years, and she had seen worse than this. But even she looked worried now. "This is bad," Minho whispered. He stood next to June, his arms crossed over his chest. Minho was the tactical officer of the Handbit. He had served in Earth's military for 15 years before joining the diplomatic corps. He knew what war looked like. They're not going to back down. This is really going to happen. June nodded slowly. The question is whether they'll drag everyone else into it. At the center of the chamber, High Speaker Vorel raised his thin arms and called for silence. Vorel was an Elthari, a species known for their wisdom and patience. He had led the council for 60 years. His gray skin was wrinkled with age, and his large black eyes showed the weight of centuries of difficult decisions. "Please," Vorel said, his voice tired, "we must find a peaceful solution. War will destroy both your peoples. It will destabilize the entire galaxy." Draxus laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. "Peace. There can be no peace until the Velocs pay for their crimes." He turned slowly, looking at each delegation in the chamber. His yellow eyes stopped on the humans. And every species in this council must choose a side. The time for neutrality is over. June felt his stomach tighten. Earth had always stayed out of galactic conflicts. They were a young species, barely 200 years into their journey among the stars. They had no interest in fighting other people's wars. Yuna stepped forward. Her voice was calm and steady. "Earth has no intention of joining any conflict. We are here as neutral observers. We trade with both the Corvani and the Veloci. We have no enemies in this room." Draxus smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Neutrality is a luxury, Ambassador. When the war begins, you will need to choose. The Corvani would welcome human soldiers. "We have heard interesting stories about your species, stories about your wars on your own planet, stories about your creativity in battle." Before Yuna could respond, something unexpected happened. Elder Sarath moved forward. His light grew brighter, almost painful to look at. When he spoke, his voice carried a weight that silenced the entire chamber. "Leave Terra out of this war." The words hung in the air like a physical thing. June felt a chill run down his spine. He did not understand why. But something about the way Sarath spoke made his heart beat faster. Draxus looked confused for a moment. Then he laughed again. "Are you afraid, Elder? Afraid that the humans will fight for us instead of you?" "I am afraid," Sarath said quietly, "but not for the reason you think." June noticed something strange. The older species in the chamber, the ones who had been traveling the stars for thousands of years, were not laughing. They were looking at the human delegation with something that looked like fear. Some of them were backing away slowly, as if they wanted to put distance between themselves and Earth's representatives. High Speaker Varel's face had gone pale. He cleared his throat and spoke quickly. Perhaps we should take a break. We will continue this discussion tomorrow. Draxus protested. But Varel was already leaving the chamber. The other delegates followed, many of them still staring at the humans with those strange, fearful eyes. June turned to Yuna. What just happened? Yuna shook her head slowly. I don't know, but I intend to find out. Hannah, the communications officer, had been recording the entire session. She looked down at her device, her face troubled. Captain, I've been monitoring the private channels. The other delegations are all talking about us. They're using words I don't understand. Old words. And they all sound scared. Minho frowned. Scared of what? We're a minor species. We have a small fleet. We've never fought anyone out here. Maybe that's what scares them, June said quietly. He looked out the window at the endless stars. Somewhere out there, Earth floated in peaceful ignorance. His home, his people. Maybe they're scared of what we might become. The chamber was empty now. Only the humans remained, standing in the silence, wondering why the galaxy seemed to fear them. And in the shadows of the ancient station, old records lay buried. Records that told the truth about humanity's first contact with alien life. Records that the Galactic Council had hidden for 200 years. Records that would soon come to light. The night cycle on Nexus Prime brought artificial darkness to the station's corridors. Most delegates had returned to their ships or their quarters. The great halls were empty and silent, but Hannah was not sleeping. She sat in a small room aboard the handbit, surrounded by screens filled with data. Her fingers moved quickly across the controls as she searched through old records, old transmissions, old files that had been buried deep in the galactic archives. She was looking for answers. Captain? June entered the room with 2 cups of hot tea. He placed one beside Hannah and sat down across from her. Find anything? Hannah rubbed her tired eyes. Something strange. I've been looking through the records of humanity's first contact with the Galactic Council. The official version says we were discovered by a trading vessel near Jupiter. They welcomed us into the galactic community. We learned their technology, joined their trade networks, and lived in peace. That's what they taught us in school, June said. Yes, but there are gaps. Hannah pointed at her screen. Large sections of the records are missing. Not just classified. Missing completely. Someone removed them from the archives. And the strange thing is, they weren't removed by Earth. They were removed by the Galactic Council itself. June frowned. Why would the Council hide our own history from us? Before Hannah could answer, there was a soft knock on the door. Minho entered, followed by Ambassador Yuna. Behind them was an unexpected guest, Elder Sarath. The Veloci's blue light was dim now. It's gentle. He moved slowly, like an old man carrying a heavy burden. When he spoke, his voice was quiet and sad. Captain June, Ambassador Yuna, I have come to tell you the truth. I believe you have earned it. Yuna gestured for him to sit. We're listening. Sarath's light flickered softly. 200 years ago, humanity was not discovered by a trading vessel. You were discovered by a species called the Zandari. They were a proud people, warriors who believed that strength gave them the right to rule over others. When they found Earth, they saw a primitive species just beginning to explore space. They saw slaves. June felt cold. Slaves? The Zandari attacked one of your colony worlds, a small settlement called New Busan. They killed the defenders and took the survivors as prisoners. They expected no resistance. After all, you were new to space. You had no powerful weapons. You had no great fleets. Sarath paused. His light dimmed further. They made a terrible mistake. Yuna leaned forward. What happened? Earth did not negotiate. Earth did not ask the Galactic Council for help. Instead, your leaders gathered every ship they had. They built new weapons in months, weapons that should have taken decades to develop. They studied the Zandari, learned their weaknesses, found their home worlds. Sarath's voice became barely a whisper. 18 months. That is how long it took for humanity to completely destroy the Zandari civilization. Not defeat them. Destroy them. Every ship, Every station, every colony, every city. The Zandari were erased from existence. Today, their name is only a memory. Their worlds are empty. Their people are gone. The room was silent. June felt like he could not breathe. "That's impossible," Minho said. "We were a young species. We had primitive technology. How could we defeat an established galactic power?" Sarath looked at him with something like wonder in his flickering form. "That is the question the entire galaxy has been asking for 200 years. You adapted faster than any species we had ever seen. You improvised. You fought in ways we did not understand. You showed no fear, no hesitation. And when the Zandari tried to surrender, you did not accept." "We killed them all?" Yuna asked, her voice hollow. "You killed them all. Every last one. And when it was over, your soldiers returned home and celebrated their victory. They were not traumatized. They were not ashamed. They were proud. They had protected their people, and that was all that mattered to them." June thought about what he knew of human history, the endless wars on Earth, the terrible weapons they had created, the way they had always survived, no matter what. He had always thought those were sad chapters in their past. Now he realized that the galaxy saw them differently. The council was terrified, Sareth continued. They had seen powerful species before. They had seen violent species, but they had never seen a species that could go from primitive to deadly in less than 2 years. They called a secret meeting and made a decision. They would bury the truth. They would welcome humanity into the galactic community and hope that peace would calm your nature. "They hid our history from us," Hannah said. "From you and from everyone else. The younger species do not know what happened, but the old ones remember. The Elthari remember. My people remember. We remember the fire that burned across Zandari space. We remember the silence that followed." Sarath rose slowly. His light was almost gone now. "That is why I warned them to leave you out of this war. The Corvani think they are strong. The Veloci think we are wise. But neither of us has ever faced a species like humanity. If you enter this conflict, you will not fight as allies. You will fight as yourselves. And when you are finished, there may be nothing left of either side." June stood up. "We don't want war. We've changed. Earth is peaceful now." Sareth moved toward the door. Before he left, he turned back one last time. "Perhaps you have changed. Perhaps you have learned to control what you are. But the potential is still there, Captain. It lives in every one of you. That is what frightens us. Not what you are now, but what you could become if someone pushed you too far." The door closed behind him. The 4 humans sat in silence for a long time. Finally, Yuna spoke. "We need to contact Earth. They need to know what we've learned." June nodded slowly. But in his heart, he was thinking about the Zandari. A whole civilization destroyed in 18 months, and Earth had celebrated. He looked at his own hands and wondered what else humanity was capable of. 3 days passed after Sareth's revelation. The council meetings continued, but no progress was made. The Corvani and the Veloci refused to compromise. War seemed closer with each passing hour. Ambassador Yuna sent encrypted messages to Earth explaining what they had learned. The response from the government was confusion and disbelief. How could such an important part of their history be hidden? Teams were sent to search through old military archives on Earth, looking for evidence, but while Earth searched for the past, Warlord Draxus was planning the future. On the 4th day, June was eating breakfast in the Hanbet's small kitchen when Hannah rushed in. Her face was pale and her hands were shaking. "Captain, something terrible has happened." She turned on the main screen. A news broadcast filled the display. A Terran cargo ship called the Sunrise had been attacked near the border of Veloci space. The ship was destroyed. All 43 crew members were dead. The broadcast showed images of the wreckage floating in space, broken metal and frozen bodies drifting among the stars. June felt his blood turn cold. Who did this? The broadcast says it was the Veloci, Hannah said. They're showing evidence. Energy signatures that match Veloci weapons. A distress call from the captain, naming the Veloci as attackers. Minho appeared in the doorway. His face was hard with anger. "I've been monitoring military channels. Earth's defense fleet is mobilizing. Admiral Taiwu has ordered all ships to battle positions. The government is calling it an act of war." June stood up quickly. "This doesn't make sense. The Veloci have nothing to gain from attacking us. They want us to stay neutral." "The evidence seems clear," Minho said, but his voice was uncertain. "Veloci weapons, Veloci energy signatures, too clear." Yuna entered the kitchen, her eyes sharp with suspicion. This attack happened at exactly the right moment for the Corvani. If Earth goes to war with the Veloci, we become Draxus's ally whether we want to or not. June understood immediately. It's a trap. Draxus killed our people and blamed the Veloci. "We need proof," Yuna said. "Without evidence, we can't stop Earth from retaliating." Hannah was already working on her portable device. "I can try to access the original distress call. If it was faked, there might be signs of manipulation in the data." "Do it," June ordered. "Minho, contact Admiral Taiwu directly. Tell him we have concerns about the attack. Ask him to delay any military action until we can investigate." Minho nodded and left the room. The next several hours were tense. Hannah worked without rest, analyzing the distress call and the energy signatures from the attack. Yuna contacted Elder Sereth, who swore that the Velocia had not attacked any human vessels. But his words meant nothing without proof. On Earth, the public was furious. 43 innocent lives had been taken. Families were crying for justice. Politicians were demanding action. Admiral Taiwu managed to delay the fleet's departure, but he warned that he could not wait forever. Finally, late in the night cycle, Hannah found what she was looking for. "The distress call is fake," she announced, her voice tired but triumphant. "The voice is real, but it was recorded months ago and edited together. The captain never said those words about the Veloci. Someone took old recordings and created a false message." "What about the weapons signatures?" June asked. "Harder to prove, but I found something interesting. The energy patterns match Veloci weapons perfectly. Too perfectly. Real weapons have small variations, tiny differences that make each one unique. These signatures are identical to the standard specifications, like someone copied them from a technical manual." Yuna smiled grimly. "Someone without access to real Veloci weapons, like the Corvani," Minho said. He had returned with news from Admiral Taiwu. "The Admiral is listening, but he needs something solid. The government wants blood. They don't care about technical details," June thought hard. They had evidence of deception, but it wasn't enough. They needed something that would convince everyone, something that even the angriest politicians couldn't ignore. Before he could think of a solution, a new broadcast appeared on their screens. Warlord Draxus stood in the Corvani Council chamber, his face twisted into a mask of false sympathy. "People of Earth," Draxus said, "I share your grief. The Veloci have shown their true nature. They fear your strength, so they attack your innocent civilians. But the Corvani stand with you. Join us, and together we will make the Veloci pay for this crime."
Ow.
Draxus was good at this. His words sounded sincere. His concerns seemed real. Many humans would believe him. Then Draxus made his mistake. "Earth has no choice now," Draxus continued, his voice hardening. "You must fight with us, or you will be seen as weak. And after we defeat the Veloci, we will remember who stood with us and who did not." It was a threat, hidden behind diplomatic words, but still a threat. Draxus was telling Earth that if they did not join the war, the Corvani would become their enemy too. Minho's hands tightened into fists. He's not even trying to hide it anymore. Yuna was already moving. "Contact Admiral Taiwu again. Tell him we have proof of Corvani deception, and we have a recording of Draxus threatening Earth. It's time to go to the council." June felt something stirring inside him. Not anger exactly, but something older. Something that had been sleeping in his people for 200 years. Draxus had killed 43 humans and blamed innocent people for it. He had tried to manipulate Earth into fighting his war, and now he was threatening them. The captain looked at his crew. They felt it too. That ancient fire, the one that had burned the Zandari from existence. He picked the wrong species to threaten, June said quietly. Yuna nodded. Let's go make him understand that. The Galactic Council chamber had never been so crowded. Every species in the known galaxy had sent representatives. They filled the seats, stood in the aisles, and watched from screens throughout the station. Word had spread that the humans had called an emergency session. Everyone wanted to see what would happen. High Speaker Varel stood at the center, his old face showing deep worry. Warlord Draxus sat confidently with his Corvani delegation, still wearing his mask of false friendship. Elder Sereth and the Veloci waited quietly, their blue lights dim with concern. Ambassador Yuna walked to the speaking platform. Captain June, Minho, and Hannah stood behind her. Yuna carried a small device containing all the evidence they had gathered. High Speaker Yuna began, her voice clear and strong. I've called this session to present evidence of a terrible crime. A crime committed not by the Veloci, but by the Corvani Empire. Draxus rose immediately. This is an insult. The humans are trying to protect the murderers of their own people. Varel raised his hand. Let her speak. Yuna activated her device. Holographic images filled the chamber, showing the analysis of the false distress call. The copied weapon signatures, the communications between Corvani agents that Hannah had intercepted. She explained each piece of evidence calmly and carefully. Like a teacher explaining a simple lesson, the chamber grew more quiet with each revelation. The Corvani delegation began to look nervous. Other species started whispering among themselves. Evidence is clear, Yuna concluded. Warlord Draxus ordered the attack on our cargo vessel. He killed 43 innocent humans to start a war. He tried to use Earth as a weapon against the Veloci. Draxus stood again, but this time his confidence was gone. Anger twisted his red face. These are lies. Fabricated evidence. The humans are siding with our enemies. We are not siding with anyone, Yuna replied calmly. We simply want the truth. For a moment, it seemed like Draxus might accept his defeat. The evidence was overwhelming. Even his own allies were looking at him with suspicion. A wise leader would have apologized, offered compensation, and hoped to save what remained of his reputation. But Draxus was not wise. He was proud and angry, and he had been humiliated in front of the entire galaxy. Enough of this, Draxus growled. His voice became cold and dangerous. You think you can challenge the Corvani Empire? You think your little evidence matters? We are the greatest military power in this galaxy. And if you will not fight beside us, then you will be crushed beneath us. He pulled out a communication device and spoke into it. All Corvani vessels, begin approach to Terra. The humans have chosen their side. Gasps filled the chamber. Varel's face went pale. Even the Veloci lights flickered with shock. Draxus smiled at the humans. It was the smile of a predator who thought he had cornered weak prey. My fleet was waiting for this moment. By the time you send a message to Earth, our ships will already be in your solar system. Your planet will burn before your fleet can respond. The chamber erupted in chaos. Delegates shouted and ran. Varel called for order, but no one was listening in the middle of the storm. Captain June remained perfectly still. He looked at Draxus for a long moment. Then he walked slowly to the speaking platform. Yuna stepped aside, recognizing something in his eyes that she had never seen before. When June spoke, his voice was quiet. But somehow it cut through all the noise and filled the entire chamber. You have made a mistake. The shouting stopped. Everyone turned to look at the human captain. We wanted peace, June continued. Earth had no interest in your war. We came here to trade, to learn, to build friendships across the stars. We remembered our violent past, and we chose a different path. He paused. But you have chosen to threaten our home. You killed our people and blamed others. You tried to manipulate us like pieces on a game board. And now you send your ships to attack our world? June looked directly into Draxus's eyes. Do you know what happened to the Zandari? The old species in the chamber went completely still. Some of them began moving toward the exits. Elder Sarath's light flickered rapidly. Draxus frowned. The Zandari! I don't know what you're talking about. Ask the galaxy where they are now, June said. Ask why their worlds are empty. Ask why their name is only spoken in whispers. He smiled. It was not a threatening smile. It was the smile of someone who knew something that others did not. We destroyed them completely in 18 months. They threatened our people, just like you are doing now. And we erased them from existence. Draxus laughed nervously. Impossible. You are a minor species. You have a small fleet. My armada will crush you. June nodded to Hannah. She pressed a button on her device. Outside the station, space suddenly changed. Where there had been empty darkness, light appeared. Ships materialized from nothing, hundreds of them, surrounding Nexus Prime in a perfect formation. Earth's defense fleet, led by Admiral Tai Wu aboard the flagship Sol. But that was not the most shocking part. The ships had appeared from nowhere. They had been completely invisible, hidden by technology that the Galactic Council did not know existed. Your armada is surrounded, June said calmly. Admiral Tai Wu moved our fleet 3 days ago, when we first suspected your deception. Your ships flew right past ours without seeing them. Draxus stared at the display screens showing the human fleet. His confidence shattered like broken glass. Withdraw your ships, June said. This is not a negotiation. The chamber was silent. The entire galaxy was watching. The humans, the young species that everyone had underestimated, had just revealed capabilities that no one had imagined. And in that moment, everyone understood why the old species had been afraid. The silence in the council chamber lasted for what felt like an eternity. Every eye was fixed on the display screens showing Earth's fleet surrounding the Corvani armada. The human ships hung motionless in space, their weapons powered but not firing. They were waiting. Warlord Draxus stood frozen at his position, his 4 arms hanging limply at his sides. His red face had gone pale. For the first time in his life, he had no words. Admiral Tai Wu's voice came through the communication system, calm and professional. Corvani Fleet, this is Admiral Tio of the United Earth Coalition. You are surrounded. Power down your weapons and await further instructions. Any hostile action will be met with immediate response. The Corvani commanders began talking frantically among themselves. Their ships were trapped. The human fleet had appeared from nowhere, and they had no idea what other surprises humanity might have. Surrender was humiliating, but fighting seemed suicidal. One by one, the Corvani ships powered down their weapons. Draxus finally found his voice, though it came out weak and broken. This changes nothing. Even if you defeat us today, the Corvani Empire will have revenge. We will rebuild. We will return. We will be quiet. The voice came from behind Draxus. His own second-in-command, a tall female Corvani named Vexa, stepped forward. Her face showed disgust. You have brought shame upon our people. You started a war based on lies. You killed innocents. You underestimated our enemies. The Corvani Empire is finished with you. 2 Corvani guards grabbed Draxus by his arms. He struggled, but they held him firmly. Vexa bowed her head toward Captain June. On behalf of the Corvani people, I apologize for the actions of this fool. We will pay compensation for the humans who died. We will withdraw from Veloci space. We ask only that you allow our ships to return home peacefully. June looked at Yuna. The ambassador nodded slightly. Admiral Tai Wu, June said into his communicator. The Corvani have surrendered. Please allow their ships to withdraw once they confirm their weapons are disabled. Understood, Captain. We'll escort them to the border. The tension in the chamber began to fade. Delegates who had been hiding behind seats slowly emerged. The Veloci lights grew brighter with relief. Even High Speaker Varel allowed himself a small smile. But the moment was not over yet. Varel stepped forward and faced the human delegation. His old eyes were filled with a mixture of respect and shame. Captain June, Ambassador Yuna, on behalf of the Galactic Council, I must apologize. For 200 years, we have hidden the truth about humanity's history. We feared what you might become, so we tried to control information about your past. We were wrong. He bowed deeply, a gesture of profound respect in Eltheri culture. We treated you like children who needed to be protected from their own nature. But today, you have shown us something important, at the power to destroy the Corvani fleet. You had every reason to take revenge for your murdered people, but you chose restraint. You chose justice over vengeance. Varel straightened up and looked at the human delegation with new eyes. Perhaps we were wrong about what we should fear. Perhaps the most frightening thing about humanity is not your capacity for destruction, but your ability to choose when not to use it. Elder Sereth moved forward, his blue light warm and gentle. High Speaker Varel speaks wisely. I have lived for 3,000 years, and I have seen many species rise and fall. Some were consumed by their own power. Others were too weak to survive. But humanity is different. He turned to face the entire chamber. They carry within them the potential for great violence. This is true. But they also carry the potential for great compassion, great creativity, great hope. Today, they could have started a war that would have destroyed 2 civilizations. Instead, they stopped one. That is not the action of monsters. That is the action of a species that has learned from its own dark history. The chamber was silent again, but this silence was different. It was thoughtful, respectful. Ambassador Yuna stepped forward to speak. Her voice was soft but clear. We are not proud of what we did to the Zandari. When we learned the truth, we were horrified by our own ancestors. But we also understand why they did it. They were protecting their families, their children, their home. Any species would do the same. She looked around the chamber at all the different faces, all the different forms of life. You feared what we could do in war. We hope now you will come to see what we can do in peace. Earth wants to be a partner in this galaxy, not a conqueror. We want to build, to create, to explore. We want to help solve problems, not create them. She smiled gently. Give us a chance to show you who we really are. Not the warriors who destroyed the Zandari, but the dreamers who crossed the stars looking for friends. The response was slow at first. A few delegates began to applaud, using whatever method their species used to show approval. Then more joined. Soon, the entire chamber was celebrating. Not the end of a war, but the beginning of a new understanding. Later aboard the Hanbit, June stood at the observation window with Minho Hanna and Yuna. They watched as the Corvani fleet departed under escort, their weapons cold and their pride broken. Do you think things will really change? Hanna asked. Yuna considered the question. I think they will. Not overnight. The older species will still be cautious around us. But today, we proved that power and wisdom can exist together. It's something worth building on. Minho was quiet for a moment. Then he said, I keep thinking about the Zandari. All those people, an entire civilization, gone because of us. How do we live with that? June turned to look at his tactical officer. We live with it by being better, by choosing peace when we can, by using our strength to protect, not to conquer. Every generation gets to decide what humanity means. Our ancestors chose destruction. We chose differently today. On the main screen, Admiral Tai Wu appeared. His weathered face showed a rare smile. Good work out there, Captain. President sends her congratulations. Earth is proud of you. Thank you, Admiral. What happens now? Tai Wu's smile faded slightly. Now comes the hard part. Building trust. Making friends. Showing the galaxy that we're more than our worst moments. He paused. But if anyone can do it, it's the people in that room today. The communication ended. The Hanbit turned slowly and began its journey back to Earth. Outside the window, the stars stretched endlessly in every direction. Countless worlds, countless species, countless possibilities. The galaxy would never look at humanity the same way again. They were no longer the young species that needed to be watched. They were no longer the hidden threat that others feared. They were something new, something undefined, something that would write its own story. And as the ship jumped to faster than light speed, June felt something he had not felt in a long time. Hope the galaxy was vast and ancient, and full of dangers. But humanity had faced dangers before. They had survived, adapted, and grown. Whatever. Challenges lay ahead. They would meet them together. Not as conquerors or victims, but as something the universe had never seen before. A species that chose its battles, never lost the ones it chose to fight.